You are walking through a crowded market when suddenly, without knowing why, you turn around. A second later, a shelf collapses exactly where you would have been standing. How did you know? A chess grandmaster glances at a board and immediately sees the winning move among thousands of possibilities. A firefighter bursts into a burning building, ignoring the obvious route, and saves a child hidden behind a wall of smoke. When asked why, she simply says, "Something told me to look there." A doctor diagnoses a rare condition after a brief examination while specialists with advanced equipment missed it entirely. What connects these seemingly supernatural abilities? Is it coincidence, magic, or something deeply wired into our biology? A form of cognition so fundamental yet mysterious that science is only beginning to unravel its mechanisms? The answers lie within what researchers now recognize as the 6 distinct levels of human intuition, a cognitive spectrum that begins with simple pattern recognition and culminates in what some scientists controversially term nonlocal awareness. Each level represents not just a different type of intuitive experience, but a fundamentally different way our brains process information beyond conscious thought. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious, Einstein once remarked. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Perhaps nothing embodies this mystery more than intuition, the knowing without knowing how we know. Today, we journey through these 6 levels, examining how each manifests in our daily lives, how neuroscience explains them, and why understanding intuition might be crucial not just for personal growth, but for the very future of human cognition in an age increasingly dominated by artificial intelligence. Cambridge University, 1995. Professor Colin Blackwell stands before a hushed auditorium. "What if I told you," he begins, "that every decision you believe you make consciously has already been made by your brain up to 7 seconds before you become aware of it?" He pauses, allowing the disturbing implication to sink in. Who, then, is really in charge? Blackwell was referring to the groundbreaking experiments of Benjamin Libet in the 1980s, later expanded by researchers at Max Planck Institute. Using EEG and fMRI technology, they discovered that brain activity predicting a choice appears several seconds before the person becomes consciously aware of their decision. This finding challenged our most fundamental beliefs about free will and consciousness. But Libet's discovery was just the tip of an iceberg, the first empirical glimpse into a vast, mostly submerged cognitive system that operates beneath our awareness. What we casually call intuition is actually a sophisticated evolutionary adaptation that has been keeping humans alive and thriving for hundreds of thousands of years. Dr. Patricia Morales, a neurobiologist at Stanford Center for Cognitive Enhancement, explains, "Our ancestors didn't survive by engaging in slow, deliberate thinking when a predator appeared. They survived because their brains evolved rapid threat detection systems that bypassed conscious thought entirely. These systems form the foundation of what we now understand as the first level of intuition, pattern recognition intuition. Consider patient CM7 in Morales lab studies. This 43-year-old investment banker could correctly predict market shifts with remarkable accuracy but couldn't explain his reasoning. Brain scans revealed heightened activity in his anterior cingulate cortex and insula, regions associated with pattern detection and bodily awareness, moments before he made his predictions. He was processing thousands of data points unconsciously, Morales explains. His brain was recognizing patterns too subtle and complex for his conscious mind to articulate. This basic pattern recognition intuition explains many everyday phenomena. Knowing who's calling before checking your phone, anticipating the flow of traffic, or feeling someone's mood without visible cues. Your brain continuously processes environmental data, comparing it to stored patterns and alerting you when it detects significant matches or anomalies, all without conscious effort. But this is merely the first level of intuitive cognition. As we advance through the other 5 levels, the mechanisms become more sophisticated, more mysterious, and far more powerful. The implications extend beyond individual experiences. Google's former CEO Eric Schmidt acknowledged that despite their vast computational resources, the most valuable insights often come not from the data itself, but from the intuitive leaps of analysts interpreting that data. This is why, despite advances in artificial intelligence, human intuition remains irreplaceable in critical fields from medicine to military strategy. What makes human intuition so powerful that even our most advanced machines cannot fully replicate it? The answer begins to emerge when we examine the second level: expertise intuition. In 1972, chess grandmaster Alexander Alekhine was asked how many moves ahead he calculated. His response bewildered journalists. None. I simply know where the pieces belong. This wasn't modesty but a profound insight into expertise intuition, the ability to recognize optimal patterns instantly through extensive experience. Dr. Charles Bennett, cognitive psychologist at Oxford, has spent decades studying this phenomenon. What we're seeing is not supernatural, he explains. It's the result of neural networks that have been trained through thousands of hours of deliberate practice. The expert's brain recognizes situations holistically rather than through step-by-step analysis. Bennett's research team conducted a fascinating experiment with emergency room physicians. When presented with symptoms of sepsis, a life-threatening condition requiring immediate treatment, experienced doctors made correct diagnoses significantly faster than their less experienced colleagues. More surprisingly, their pupils dilated and stress hormones spiked before they consciously recognized the pattern, suggesting their bodies knew before their conscious minds did. This expertise intuition isn't limited to high-pressure professions. A master baker knows when dough feels right without measuring. A skilled mechanic diagnoses engine problems by sound. A parent distinguishes between their child's cries. In each case, the brain has encoded complex patterns so thoroughly that recognition becomes instantaneous and effortless. But here's where things get interesting. Expertise intuition isn't merely faster than analytical thinking. It's often more accurate. When researchers asked firefighters to explain their intuitive decisions during emergencies, their post-hoc rationalizations were frequently incorrect. The actual neural mechanisms driving their decisions operated beyond conscious awareness, integrating countless variables impossible to verbalize. This creates a paradox, Bennett notes. The more expert you become, the less you can explain how you know what you know. As profound as expertise intuition is, it represents just the second level of our intuitive capabilities. To understand the third level, social intuition, we must examine one of humanity's most remarkable adaptations: our ability to navigate incredibly complex social environments. A conference room in Tokyo, 2018. American executive Craig Barnes sits across from his Japanese counterparts in a negotiation that has stalled for hours. Without speaking their language fluently, Barnes suddenly senses a shift in the room's atmosphere. He offers a concession no one has explicitly requested. Later, the Japanese CEO remarks, "How did you know that was exactly what we needed to proceed?" Barnes couldn't explain it, but neuroscientist Dr. Penelope Mitchell can. What he experienced was third-level intuition, social intuition. His brain was processing micro-expressions, posture changes, vocal tone shifts, and cultural context simultaneously, creating an embodied understanding that preceded conscious awareness. Social intuition represents a quantum leap in complexity from the previous levels. While pattern recognition and expertise intuition primarily process external data, social intuition incorporates a sophisticated theory of mind, the ability to simulate others' mental and emotional states. The neural foundation for this capacity lies in our mirror neuron system, discovered accidentally in 1992 by Italian researchers studying macaque monkeys. They noticed that certain neurons fired both when a monkey performed an action and when it merely observed another performing the same action. Subsequent research confirmed that humans possess an even more elaborate mirror neuron network. These neurons allow us to literally feel what others feel, explains Mitchell. When you wince watching someone get hurt, your pain centers activate. When you see someone disgusted, your brain's disgust response triggers. This creates a direct, embodied understanding of others that bypasses rational analysis. This explains why we can often sense someone's intentions before they act, know when someone is lying despite plausible words, or feel tension in a room without anyone speaking. Our brains are constantly running sophisticated social simulations, predicting others' behavior by internally mirroring their presumed mental states. The adaptive value is clear. Early humans who could intuitively understand tribal dynamics, who was trustworthy, who was dangerous, what unspoken alliances existed, had tremendous survival advantages. Those who needed explicit communication for every social insight were at a significant disadvantage. Social intuition manifests in particularly fascinating ways in maternal behavior. Studies show that mothers can distinguish their infant's cry from others within days of birth. Brain scans reveal that maternal brains actually restructure during pregnancy, enhancing regions associated with social cognition and emotional processing. Dr. Mitchell's research with indigenous communities in Papua New Guinea revealed another striking aspect of social intuition: its cultural variations. Western participants excel at reading facial expressions but often miss bodily cues. The four people showed the opposite pattern: extraordinary sensitivity to posture and movement but less attention to faces. Both groups were processing social information intuitively, but culture had shaped what their intuition prioritized. Social intuition becomes particularly evident in its absence. Individuals with autism spectrum disorders often struggle with this specific form of intuition while excelling at pattern recognition in non-social domains. This supports the theory that different levels of intuition involve distinct neural networks. The implications extend beyond personal interactions. Diplomatic negotiations, business deals, and conflict resolutions often succeed or fail based on the social intuition of key participants. As one veteran United Nations negotiator told Mitchell, "The official agreements are just formalities. The real work happens in the unspoken understanding that develops between parties." But powerful as social intuition is, it represents just the halfway point in our journey through intuitive capacities. The fourth level, creative intuition, takes us into even more mysterious territory. Vienna, 1865. The chemist Friedrich August Kekule had been struggling for years to determine the molecular structure of benzene. One evening, dozing by the fire, he dreamed of a snake biting its own tail. Upon waking, he immediately recognized this image as the solution. Benzene's molecules formed a ring. This revelation revolutionized organic chemistry. What happened to Kekule exemplifies creative intuition, the fourth level in our hierarchy, explains Dr. Christopher Bates, director of the Institute for Consciousness Studies. His unconscious mind reconfigured existing knowledge into a novel pattern that his conscious mind couldn't formulate through linear reasoning. Creative intuition differs fundamentally from expertise intuition. While expertise works within established patterns, creative intuition transcends them, generating genuinely new connections and insights. It explains why solutions often appear during moments of relaxation, in the shower, during walks, upon waking, when the brain's default mode network activates. The default mode network is essentially your brain's incubation chamber, Bates explains. When your attention isn't focused on immediate tasks, this network integrates disparate knowledge, testing remote associations your analytical mind might dismiss as irrelevant. Neuroscientist Dr. Marcus Rakel discovered this network in 2001 when he noticed certain brain regions became more active during rest than during focused tasks. Further research revealed these regions play crucial roles in imagination, perspective-taking, and scenario simulation, precisely the cognitive functions needed for creative breakthroughs. Creative intuition has been responsible for some of humanity's greatest advances. Einstein's theory of relativity began with a teenage daydream about riding a beam of light. Watson and Crick's double helix model of DNA came to Watson in a dream. The periodic table appeared to Mendeleev after he fell asleep at his desk. This isn't coincidence but neurobiology. During relaxed states, the brain's prefrontal cortex, responsible for logical evaluation and criticism, reduces its inhibitory control. This allows more remote connections between ideas to form in areas like the default mode network. When these connections reach sufficient strength, they erupt into awareness as sudden insights. The aha moment is actually the conscious mind finally receiving information that unconscious processes have been developing for some time, says Bates. EEG studies show that the brain shows predictive activity up to 8 seconds before a person reports having a creative insight. But creative intuition isn't limited to scientific or artistic breakthroughs. It manifests whenever we navigate novel situations requiring innovative responses. The parent who devises an unconventional solution to a child's persistent problem. The traveler who intuitively finds their way through an unfamiliar city. The chef who combines ingredients in unprecedented ways. What makes creative intuition particularly fascinating is how it integrates multiple brain systems. While analytical thinking primarily engages the brain's task-positive network, creative intuition involves a dynamic interplay between default mode networks, salience networks, which determine what deserves attention, and executive control networks. Cultural contexts profoundly influence how this intuition expresses itself. Western education systems tend to emphasize analytical thinking, potentially suppressing creative intuition. In contrast, certain Eastern traditions explicitly cultivate it through practices like meditation and koan contemplation. The Zen koan, an unanswerable riddle like, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" deliberately short-circuits analytical thinking, explains Dr. Penelope Mitchell. This forces the practitioner to access knowledge through direct intuitive insight rather than step-by-step reasoning. Modern research supports these ancient approaches. A 2012 study at the University of California found that participants showed significantly enhanced problem-solving abilities after meditation sessions that fostered non-judgmental awareness, precisely the mental state that allows creative intuition to flourish. As remarkable as creative intuition is, it still operates primarily within the realm of existing knowledge, reconfiguring what we already know in novel ways. The fifth level, embodied intuition, takes us into territory where the body itself becomes a knowing instrument. Amazon Rainforest, 2009. Dr. Patricia Morales was conducting fieldwork on indigenous healing practices when she contracted a severe infection. Miles from medical facilities, she found herself in the care of a local curandero healer. Without modern diagnostic tools, the healer placed hands on various parts of her body, then prepared a specific combination of plants. Within days, Morales recovered completely. Laboratory analysis later revealed the plants contained compounds with powerful antimicrobial properties, specifically effective against her infection. How had the healer known precisely which plants to use? This was embodied intuition at work, explains Morales. The fifth level transcends mental pattern recognition entirely. It represents the body itself as an intuitive instrument capable of direct knowing. The scientific foundation for embodied intuition begins with the relatively recent discovery that our bodies contain far more sensory information processing capability than previously recognized. The enteric nervous system, sometimes called our second brain, contains over 500 million neurons in our gut alone. The heart possesses its own intricate nervous system that operates with considerable independence from the brain. These systems don't just receive orders from the brain, they actively process information and send signals upward that influence cognition and decision-making. Research at HeartMath Institute has demonstrated that the heart actually sends more signals to the brain than it receives, and these signals significantly affect brain function, including perception and problem-solving. We've been thinking about intuition backward, argues Dr. Christopher Bates. We assumed it originated in unconscious brain processes that then created bodily sensations. But considerable evidence suggests that in embodied intuition, The body itself detects and responds to stimuli before the brain consciously processes them. This explains phenomena like gut feelings about danger, the sensation of being watched, or bodily discomfort in threatening situations. Your body literally knows before your conscious mind does. In a groundbreaking study at the University of Arizona, participants were connected to physiological monitors while viewing random sequences of emotional and neutral images. Remarkably, their bodies showed distinctive responses, changes in heart rate variability, skin conductance, and gastric activity, before emotionally charged images appeared, even though the sequence was random and unpredictable. The body appears capable of responding to information before it becomes available to conscious awareness, concludes the study's lead author, Dr. Charles Bennett. This suggests an intuitive system that operates outside our conventional understanding of sensory processing. Embodied intuition manifests particularly strongly in healing traditions worldwide. Chinese medicine practitioners detect subtle energy imbalances through pulse diagnosis. Ayurvedic physicians in India diagnose through specific touch techniques. Indigenous healers often report seeing or feeling illness in patients' bodies. Western medicine has traditionally dismissed these practices, but emerging research on interoception, our awareness of internal bodily states, suggests mechanisms that might explain them. The insula, a brain region associated with interoception, shows heightened connectivity and activity in experienced practitioners of bodily awareness disciplines. What's fascinating, notes Morales, is that modern medical technology often confirms what skilled practitioners can detect through embodied intuition. I've documented cases where traditional healers accurately diagnosed conditions that were later verified by laboratory tests. This level of intuition isn't limited to healing contexts. Athletes describe being in the zone, a state where the body seems to know exactly what to do without conscious direction. Musicians report similar experiences where technical mastery becomes effortless, and the body itself seems to understand the music's demands intuitively. Training can dramatically enhance embodied intuition. Practices like yoga, tai chi, and certain forms of meditation specifically develop awareness of subtle bodily signals. Even in scientific fields, embodied knowledge plays a crucial role. Physicist and philosopher Michael Polanyi famously observed that scientists possess tacit knowledge that cannot be fully articulated but is essential to their work, knowledge that resides in bodily experience rather than conscious thought. The implications are profound. If our bodies possess intuitive capabilities that operate independently from conscious reasoning, this challenges fundamental assumptions about human cognition. It suggests we might train these capacities deliberately, accessing knowledge through channels we've largely neglected in our cerebrally focused educational systems. Yet even embodied intuition, with all its mystery, represents only the fifth level of human intuitive capability. The sixth and final level, what researchers tentatively term nonlocal intuition, pushes the boundaries of current scientific understanding and remains both the most controversial and potentially the most revolutionary. Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory, 1979 to 2007. For almost 3 decades, this prestigious university laboratory conducted some of the most methodologically rigorous studies ever attempted on phenomena that challenge conventional scientific frameworks. Their findings, published in leading peer-reviewed journals, suggested human consciousness might access information through means inexplicable by known physical mechanisms. The evidence for what we call nonlocal intuition is substantial, replicated, and troubling to conventional scientific paradigms, explains Dr. Charles Bennett, who worked with the Princeton team before establishing his own research program. We're talking about the apparent ability of human consciousness to access information beyond the constraints of time, space, and known sensory channels. This sixth level of intuition, nonlocal intuition, represents the frontier of current research. Unlike the previous 5 levels, which operate through increasingly sophisticated but physically explainable neural mechanisms, Non-local intuition suggests capabilities that transcend known physical limitations. The evidence comes from multiple research directions. Presentiment studies, like those conducted at the University of California and Cornell University, consistently show physiological responses to future stimuli that haven't yet been presented. Remote viewing research, initially funded by the CIA and later independently validated, demonstrated statistical evidence that some individuals could accurately describe distant locations without any conventional sensory access. Perhaps most compelling are the studies on intuitive precognition conducted by Dr. Dean Radin at the Institute of Noetic Sciences. In carefully controlled experiments, participants showed statistically significant ability to predict future random events at rates that consistently exceeded chance expectations across thousands of trials. What makes these findings so challenging is not just that they occur, but that they've been replicated across different laboratories, researchers, and methodologies, notes Bennett. The evidence has reached a point where simply dismissing it has become scientifically untenable, even as explaining it remains problematic. Several theoretical frameworks attempt to account for non-local intuition. Quantum entanglement models propose that consciousness may interact with matter at quantum levels, accessing information through non-local quantum correlations. Field theories suggest consciousness might access information through field-like properties that transcend conventional space-time limitations. Dr. Patricia Morales points to emerging understandings in biology. We now know that biophotons, ultraweak light emissions from cells, form complex communication networks throughout living systems. These quantum-level phenomena might provide physical mechanisms for information exchange beyond conventional understanding. Real-world examples of apparent non-local intuition abound. The mother who awakens knowing her distant child is in danger. The inventor who dreams technical details of a device that shouldn't work according to current science but does. The repeated instances of scientists worldwide making identical discoveries simultaneously without communication. What distinguishes non-local intuition from coincidence or confirmation bias? Rigorous methodology, answers Bennett. When these phenomena are tested under increasingly stringent conditions that eliminate conventional explanations, the effects persist. That's what science demands. And that's what this research provides. The implications extend far beyond academic interest. If human consciousness can indeed access information non-locally, this would fundamentally transform our understanding of reality itself. It suggests an interconnectedness more profound than our conventional models allow, a universe where consciousness and information have properties we're only beginning to comprehend. Practical applications are emerging. Medical institutions like the Cleveland Clinic now study intuitive diagnosis, where practitioners demonstrate accuracy rates exceeding conventional methods for certain conditions. Financial forecasting models incorporating intuitive inputs from specially trained individuals have shown promising results in preliminary studies. What's most significant, observes Morales, is how non-local intuition integrates with the other 5 levels. It's not separate from them but represents their furthest extension, the point where intuitive knowing transcends the limitations we typically assume are fixed. This integration becomes evident in examining how certain practices enhance all 6 levels simultaneously. Deep meditation practitioners show enhanced pattern recognition, expertise development, social perception, creative insight, bodily awareness, and apparent non-local perception. Indigenous knowledge systems worldwide have maintained that these capacities form a continuum rather than separate phenomena. The frontier of intuition research isn't just about documenting these capabilities but developing methodologies to cultivate them systematically. Centers like the Monroe Institute, the Academy of Intuition Medicine, and university research programs are exploring protocols that might enhance non-local intuitive capacities through specific training regimens. The question isn't whether these intuitive abilities exist, concludes Bennett. The evidence for all 6 levels is compelling. The question is what this tells us about human consciousness and the nature of reality itself. As we integrate these insights about the 6 levels of human intuition, a profound picture emerges, not just of how intuition functions, but of what it reveals about our place in the universe. Santa Fe Institute, 2023. An unprecedented gathering of neuroscientists, physicists, philosophers, and practitioners of various contemplative traditions has convened to address a single question. What are the implications of the 6 levels of intuition for our understanding of consciousness and the future of human cognition? We stand at an inflection point in our understanding of human potential, declares the conference organizer, Dr. Christopher Bates. The systematic research on intuition conducted over the past 50 years has revealed capacities that demand we reconsider fundamental assumptions about consciousness itself. This reconsideration begins with recognizing that intuition is not a singular phenomenon but a spectrum of increasingly sophisticated knowing processes. From basic pattern recognition to nonlocal awareness, each level reveals something profound about how consciousness operates, both within and potentially beyond the physical brain. The implications extend in several crucial directions. First, educational systems designed primarily around analytical thinking neglect the development of these essential intuitive capacities. We're training students to use only a fraction of their cognitive resources, argues education reformer Penelope Mitchell. Integrating intuition development into curricula isn't new age fantasy but neurobiological necessity. Several innovative schools are already implementing this approach. The Ross School in New York, founded by neuroscientist Courtney Ross, incorporates specific practices to develop intuitive capacities alongside analytical skills. Their longitudinal studies show graduates demonstrating enhanced problem-solving abilities, emotional intelligence, and creative output compared to conventional educational approaches. A second implication concerns health and medicine. The body's intuitive wisdom represents one of our most underutilized healing resources, explains Dr. Patricia Morales. Integrative medicine isn't just about combining treatment modalities. It's about recognizing the body's inherent knowing capabilities. Leading medical institutions including Massachusetts General Hospital and the University of California, San Francisco now offer programs in intuitive medicine, training practitioners to access and interpret bodily intuition as a clinical tool. Preliminary studies show that integrating these approaches with conventional diagnostics improves outcomes across a range of conditions. Perhaps most profound are the implications for our relationship with technology. As artificial intelligence advances, the question becomes not whether machines can outperform humans at analytical tasks, they already do in many domains, but whether the unique intuitive capabilities of human consciousness represent something fundamentally different from computational processing. AI excels at the first level of intuition, pattern recognition, and is making progress on the second level of expertise, observes Dr. Charles Bennett. But the higher levels, particularly non-local intuition, appear to involve properties of consciousness that transcend computational algorithms entirely. This suggests a future where human-AI collaboration leverages the complementary strengths of each. The computational power and perfect memory of machines combined with the intuitive wisdom, ethical understanding, and creative insights of human consciousness. Such collaboration is already emerging in fields from medical diagnosis to scientific discovery. At the MD Anderson Cancer Center, AI systems analyze vast datasets to identify potential patterns, while human oncologists apply their intuitive understanding to integrate these findings with the unique circumstances of individual patients. Neither alone achieves what both accomplish together. The future isn't human versus machine, predicts technology philosopher Craig Borden. It's developing technologies that enhance rather than replace human intuitive capacities, technologies that serve as intuition amplifiers rather than substitutes. This vision is being realized through innovations like the Intuitive Resonance platform developed at MIT Media Lab, which uses biofeedback systems to help users identify and strengthen their intuitive signals. Early applications in fields from emergency medicine to financial forecasting show promising results. Yet perhaps the most revolutionary implication concerns our fundamental understanding of consciousness and reality. If non-local intuition is valid, if consciousness can indeed access information beyond the conventional constraints of space and time, this suggests properties of consciousness not reducible to brain activity alone. We're not saying consciousness exists independently from the brain, clarifies Bennett. We're saying the relationship between consciousness, information, and physical reality may be far more complex and bidirectional than our current models suggest. This perspective resonates with emerging interpretations of quantum physics. As physicist and Nobel laureate Eugene Wigner observed, it was not possible to formulate the laws of quantum mechanics without reference to consciousness. Recent theoretical work by physicists including Roger Penrose and mathematical models from the Quantum Gravity Research Institute suggest consciousness may be fundamental rather than incidental to the universe's structure. What does this mean for everyday life? It means developing your intuitive capacities isn't just a personal growth exercise. It's accessing fundamental properties of consciousness that connect you to the universe in ways we're just beginning to understand, answers Dr. Patricia Morales. The practical pathways for developing these capacities are surprisingly accessible. Research shows that specific practices reliably enhance intuitive functioning across all 6 levels. Regular meditation, particularly forms that cultivate non-judgmental awareness, strengthens the neural networks underlying intuitive processing. Studies at Harvard Medical School demonstrate measurable changes in brain regions associated with intuition after just 8 weeks of consistent practice. Embodiment practices like Tai Chi, yoga, and certain forms of dance develop awareness of subtle bodily signals essential for embodied intuition. Research at the University of California shows practitioners demonstrate enhanced interoceptive accuracy, the ability to perceive internal bodily states, which correlates with improved intuitive decision-making. Intentional engagement with nature appears particularly powerful in developing non-local intuitive capacities. Multiple studies show that extended immersion in natural environments, away from technological stimulation, enhances sensitivity to subtle information fields that modern environments typically mask. Perhaps most significant is the practice of contemplative inquiry, the disciplined observation of one's own consciousness. By becoming aware of how your intuition already functions, you naturally strengthen these pathways, explains meditation teacher Craig Bartlett. The capacity for self-awareness itself appears to be the master key that unlocks intuitive development. These approaches aren't alternatives to analytical thinking but complements that develop a more integrated form of cognition. The most powerful human intelligence isn't analytical or intuitive in isolation, observes Bennett. It's the dynamic integration of both, what we might call wisdom. This integration has profound implications for addressing the complex challenges humanity currently faces. Climate change, technological disruption, social polarization. These problems resist purely analytical solutions because they involve complex systems with emergent properties. Intuitive cognition, with its capacity to grasp holistic patterns and transcend linear thinking, offers complementary approaches essential for navigating complexity. We're not just talking about individual development, emphasizes Dr. Christopher Bates. We're talking about expanding humanity's cognitive toolkit at a moment when our existing approaches are proving insufficient for the challenges we face. As the Santa Fe Conference concludes, participants draft a declaration calling for a systematic research program to further explore and develop human intuitive capacities. The proposed International Intuition Project would coordinate research across disciplines, develop standardized protocols for intuition training, and investigate applications in fields from medicine to environmental science. The 6 levels of intuition aren't just interesting scientific curiosities, concludes Bates. They represent a map of human potential that we've barely begun to explore, a potential that might be essential not just for individual flourishing but for our collective future. As the scientists, philosophers, and practitioners disperse to their respective institutions, they carry with them not just new research questions but a fundamental reframing of human consciousness, one that recognizes intuition not as a mysterious aberration but as an essential cognitive capacity wired into our very nature, waiting to be fully developed. The ancient Greek temple at Delphi bore the inscription, "Know thyself," perhaps the most profound invitation in human history. Understanding the 6 levels of intuition offers a pathway to that knowing, revealing dimensions of our consciousness that extend from the neural networks of our brains to the furthest reaches of what might be possible for human awareness. In the end, intuition's greatest gift may be not just what it allows us to know about the world, but what it reveals about consciousness itself. A revelation that connects the subatomic realms of quantum physics to the subjective experience of being human, suggesting that the universe and our awareness of it may be more profoundly interconnected than we have dared to imagine. Through the mysterious wilderness of human intuition, we discover not just how we know, but who we are, beings whose consciousness carries capacities for knowing that transcend the boundaries we thought defined us, inviting us into a relationship with reality where wonder and wisdom meet.